Order. This is our commission meeting, the Board of Commissioners call meeting on Monday, February 28th at 9 a.m. And I'm gonna ask the chief if he would to lead us in prayer.
Let's pray. Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for the opportunity to wake up, Father God, and serve you one more day. Father, we pray that today would be a day that we would make a difference in someone's life. Let everything today that we do, Father God, be pleasing to you. In Christ's name I pray. Amen.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's have a roll call. Mr. Burris?
Present.
Mr. Pope?
Present.
Mr. Lucas?
Present.
Mr. Barner?
Present.
Chairman here. All right. We have on the agenda this morning, we have the Georgia Department of Revenue consent order to work on. We approve it. Modification, appeal, table, or time, whatever we want to do. Scott?
Yes,
Do
sir.
we want to approve it as,
Yes, sir. I think, Billy, was it you that said that there's a different version? Is this the one that we're supposed to be approving? That was sent, they were gonna send another one, or?
They're gonna send actually a hard copy, that was a draft that you got.
Okay.
Basically, they're gonna send you the official, consent order, and basically, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, we're trying to get y'all to approve the information, there's gonna be no modifications to that consent order, there's no language that's gonna come out of it, what it is what it is. Basically, they said that the county needs to formally, like I said, accept it, then they will send the consent order, then it will go before the chairman to sign. And then that'll get the ball rolling with that, that'll take care of that part of it. But what they sent us, all they've sent us, until the county reaches back out and we say, basically, we're agreeing to the consent order, they're just gonna kind of sit here and do nothing, so we don't, that's really not the copy, the official copy, it'll be hard mail here, inked, and then go back to them, hard mail.
okay,
The terms of what y'all have had to review, those are exactly the terms, there's nothing that's gonna be changed in that according to the main manual Department of Revenue.
okay. Now, if we approve this, but we got to have these conditions that's got to be met, is that correct? Mm-hmm. Okay, so if we do this, if we sign this contract, then we'll be in line.
We'll be agreed, we signed a contract that basically says, and it gives us all these things that we must do by June, whatever day it is in that contract, so by going ahead and approving to accept the GMAS bid, like I said, it's two different items, the consent order is what you're gonna initiate and agree to, then you're looking at the actual contract for work.
Right.
And that goes ahead and takes care of the real part agreement that the consent order has told us we've got to do with appraising all these properties and all this stuff. So we're still got some information that's gonna have to come back at another time, and it's gonna be the personal property stuff, we can talk about some of that this morning, but today we've had email problems last week, I think Scott confirmed that we had server issues, we reached out to some vendors, we want to be able to give y'all clear numbers on personal property information, and we're waiting on vendors, like I said, we put stuff out there, and couldn't understand why we weren't getting stuff back, and it was getting called up, and we couldn't send emails, so we weren't receiving so many emails. emails last week between us and the county attorney as well, just because of the server, was having issues. But that's really what we're out here to see. That takes care of the real part, like I said, and we're gonna have to take care of the personal. That's not anything that's gonna be debatable. We've got to do it. We just got two options to notify them by how we're taking the step to take care of that
Yeah.
part of the work.
Okay. There's some things on that contract though, I mean, you know, like at the end of it, I guess we could talk about that too, go in a little bit about that contract. As that pertain for appraisers and hearings includes the expenses, $750, and then you got a per diem for appraisers in Superior Court for $1,000. Now, are we looking at a lot more additional money if this thing is signed and we have a lot of appeals? I mean,
What this does is in the contract, that y'all have gotten, it basically says that once we send out the assessment notices, that they'll furnish 25 days worth of appeal representation by someone on their staff that did their work. It's saying if you have additional ones, that you would have to pay the $750 a day for them to do this, or $750, and the other one is if we had someone go to Superior Court, it would be $1,000 on top of what they've already did, because they've already quoted you a number in this contract that's telling you about appeal hearings and so forth. So they've allotted money out. That is if we go in excess of that.
but if we go after 25 days, then they gone.
And
Is that right?
Yes, after 25 days of service, and like I said, this is, of course, Melba has to schedule a hearing, so that means that we may have on that particular day, we schedule a hearing, we may schedule 25 hearings on that day. They're still still going to have to supply 25 days worth, whether it's 3 hearings or a full slate, and believe you me, it's gonna be a full slate if they're coming to represent. She'll have the schedule loaded, and our intent is, of course, is we wanna get the ones that may tend to be a lot more in-depth, we wanna try to get those handled within these days, and then us represent the remainder of them, which will be in there with them doing all their stuff when they're actually representing the appeals. Will be in there, so there won't be anything that I don't think we can handle. We've been doing that for 20 years. So but they will handle the biggest and the worst of it. We'll put on them, and then we'll be done with it.
So if your plan is followed through, possibility that after the 25 days, they wouldn't need to come back, but your office would handle the appeals.
Correct.
Okay. So they don't have to be here on every appeal.
No.
Gotcha. Thank you.
I got a question on that, the termination part of the contract, where if the time runs out and they're 50% through the assessment, where they charge us another $305,000, I think it is, $307,500 to finish it.
I'm gonna defer that to the county attorney.
I'll be glad to answer that. Thank you. So this version of the contract, they initially submitted what I would call a very bare bones version of their contract that they generally use. It's a 1 to 2 pager. We recently negotiated with this same group on behalf of other counties we represent, Tifton Coffee, and this is our language that we submitted to them and they agreed to. What it does is instead of paying the full price up front, is it has them, complete some work before they get paid the entire thing. And so that's actually our language that we put in there in order to have that benefit to the county. And basically all these terms, the term, termination, contract assignment, correction of errors, that's all language that our office inserted into the contract that they did agree to.
See, if they get about halfway through doing their assessments and they start dragging around, that's gonna cost us money. It's
That
not
is
the
true.
price
But
like-
before we did it, you were paying everything up front. And you can always, you know, if someone is in breach of contract, we have remedies to address that. I will say, and I don't think I'd be speaking out of turn to say this, is that I think both the assessor's office and my office has worked with this particular group throughout numerous counties on numerous occasions. There's not many people I would vouch for, but they really do an excellent job. I would be surprised if we do have any issues. If they tell us they'll do it, I believe they will. But with that said, you know, we still plan for a rainy day, a rainy Monday, and so that's why we added that language. And we still would have legal remedies if they do not comply with the terms of the contract. So we do believe that language is sufficient to protect the county. It was drafted by our office.
And we have reached out to the revenue department this past week. Basically, in good nature, if the county, Joyce is gonna have to be reporting to the Department of Revenue, probably every 5 to 6 weeks, we're gonna have an agent here coming in, and she's gonna tell him and show him how much work is getting done contractually between them and the part that we're doing. And if for some reason that it came time for the review in 2024, it would be the 3 digest, and we were not complete, as long as in good nature and fashion, we were had most of the work done. If they needed to grant us an extension of 2 or 3 months, or 5 months, or 6 months to complete, then they would be, he said, the revenue commissioner would certainly have the authority to grant that in good faith. So we just trying to cover all the bases. We want to make sure, and this company is, like I said, as I talked to y'all before, they're moving us up to the top of the food chain because of our need. So I don't think it's going to be a long time before once we approve this, before we start getting things together and start moving forward with the task we're going to have.
So the price they gave us to do this assessment, that's for every parcel, right?
Correct.
That's right.
But if they get 3/4 the way through it, start dragging their feet and leave just 25% left to do, then we're gonna have to give them more money, right?
That is, like I said, that's something for her,
No, we would, no. Are you asking if they complete 3/4 of what they say they will do, but we've paid them the full amount? At that point, they would be in breach of contract, and we would have legal remedies to, go after them for that, just as you would with any contract that's in breach.
Okay.
Should be able to pay them until they got through that.
Now, if I understood Mr. Billy, understood our last conversation, what your office does, we get credit for 30 for residential and 50 for commercial.
Now, there's a change in that language on your quote, and this is why that change is. It says on the commercial properties that, instead of being $50, it says 45 credit, and this is where this change was made. They charge, if we were gonna do it and get the $50 back, they would have to set a monitor up in our office, which we'll have one anyway. But someone, and I'm just saying this, we talked to you about having limited staff. Well, pretty much I do the commercial property and industrial property in my office. There's not really anybody when I'm out there and we're out there working, once this company starts working, they have somebody sitting on a monitor watching every piece of property that gets checked, and they have the authority to not approve what we just did or their appraiser and make the correction. You got somebody sitting up there that's very smart, very, he knows what he's doing. He's making these changes, so if for some reason we were to miss-hit something, data information, they're checking it and they're fixing it. In the commercial property, we got 1,100 pieces of property, so we commercial and industrial. Basically, they're going to quality control for $5 a parcel, every one of those that I do, to make sure somebody has got to look over me and they have to agree with my work because it is their work. So that is a change in there, which has resulted in about $5,000. I think in money for the 11,000 parcels, that's basically what difference it would be in money savings, but it's 45, and it's in the contract that you're looking at. The original you had did say 50.
Okay. the work y'all do, we're gonna get credit for in the overall price.
Correct.
And the bigger picture of what I'm looking at, commissioners and Mr. Manager, Mr. Tax. The fine, if we don't do this, we're gonna get fined, plus we're gonna lose that tax revenue for the next 3 years. And I believe we estimated that to be somewhere around 600,000 a year, just in the three biggest. For the next 3 years, we will lose that automatically. There's no remedy to that. Once we lose it, it's gone. Is that right? That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking about the down the road picture. We could wind up losing 1.5 million. Was that the number, 1.5 million?
Somewhere in that
Roundabout.
ballpark, yes.
Lose around about 1.5 million plus a fine. And 3 years from now, still stand not being in compliance and revisit this whole thing again.
With,
That's
with the
my worry.
with the possibility of losing other state funding.
Right. That's my worry. My worry is the long haul, what we're gonna be losing down the road. That's my worry. My worry's not, I mean, this is a lot of money to us, a lot of money to anybody, any county. But my worry's not the money we might spend today. My money's what we might not get over the next 3 years, which is gonna double this, if not more.
And just to piggyback on what Commissioner Luca was saying, even with the fine, which is 104, and then, like I said, possibility of losing state funding, we're still gonna have to get in compliance.
Right.
So, I mean, we between that proverbial rock and a hard place right now. We just can't, I mean, it's unfortunate it's gotten to this, but it's here. So now we have to address it. And thankfully, thank God, we got some monies, the ARPA fund that we can use. That makes it a little bit better to digest, having some money there to do it. So, but the only thing I would say is this right here, like I said, when you first presented this bill in the office and everything, and I didn't want to try to disparage anyone or any form of past commission, anything like that. But, to get us to this point we are right now, somebody dropped the ball somewhere along the way. So my thing is if we do this right, 3 or 4 years from now or not, but I would just say that we don't want to have to be coming back and just be faced with the same thing again, because once we get a handle on it, we need to stay on top of it. And that's my understanding. Like I said, I talked with you several times about it. I talked with other people, and it's one of them situations where maybe we should have been doing something, but we didn't. So now we're faced with this, but once we get a handle on it, then we need to try to stay on top of it. And that's where your office, I guess, comes in, and the assessors and whoever else deals with this, because if we don't, we'll be right back the same spot again. So that's my mic or what? Okay, so, and as the chairman alluded to earlier, there's certain things in the contract, but I'm pretty sure our attorney, like I say, they looking out for our best interests in this. And I don't know how feasible it would be, but we've been hearing what you had to say, basically like representing what the company's saying, but they don't have anyone that comes out and kind of.
Yeah, I'd like to ask that too, why we don't have anybody from this company here to.
I don't think that would have been an issue if they would have had knowledge that they thought they needed to be here, they would have had a representative here.
I'd like to say this in public provision. In Charles County, we hired this company to do some work down there, and they hung on the spot without me. I worked with them for 2 years down there. They come in your office, they work with you, they're very pleasant, and as far as dropping the ball, that's the worry you need not to have. These people are just spot on, and I think Jennifer will vouch for that too. She's working with them in other counties. They they are the top one company in the business.
But I do want to clarify on the agenda, we've got two things to approve this morning. The first item is actually the consent order
Consent order.
with the Department of Revenue. And so that's the first decision to make, understanding that there are a lot of pages of requirements. It's going to require a lot of work by the assessor's office on reporting, on their paperwork, all different things. And then as part of that consent order, we have the real property part, which is then item 2 on our agenda today, the contract with GMAS. That's to address the real property issue. There also is contained therein a private property item, which is not before you all today, which, as Billy mentioned earlier. So I just wanted to clarify, exactly what we are approving.
Yeah.
And I did also want to mention, there is just basically one sentence of introductory language that was not included in the GMAS contract. I believe it was just an oversight on their part. And so I would like to ask, when you all do approve the contract this morning, that you approve it, just adding this one sentence, and I can read it out to you all so you understand what it is, but it just says, in consideration of the promises, covenants, and conditions set forth herein, the county and the company agree as follows. Scope of service. The scope of service covered by the cost submitted in this contract pursuant to Exhibit B is the following. And that is just a little introductory statement that formally makes it a contract. They did already include that in our Tift and Coffee contract we recently renegotiated, but just in the version before you this morning, I believe that was inadvertently left out. So I just ask for you all, when you do, if you choose to make a motion to approve it, that you allow the attorney to add that language at the beginning of the contract.
Yeah, that's the reason I asked that question about that. Approving this thing on this consent order, if, that's the reason I went into that other, because I want to make sure that this thing's gonna be done. If we sign this consent order, if we approve it.
We gotta be prepared. You're exactly right. When we sign the consent order, we have got to be prepared to carry out all the terms required of us. I agree.
So that's what I was concerned about, is this thing gonna work now when we get through with it? We don't want it to come back. Now, when we raise the taxes on everybody, we know what's gonna happen. They're gonna beat your door down up there. Why you raising my place $100,000? It's gonna come, Roger. You know that too.
Yeah, let me say that raising the appraisals, not necessarily raising the taxes.
No, I know that.
That will be the result, and that's the one thing that has to be put out, because this is all gonna be on reassessed values, and like I said, it's gonna affect your rollback, and it's gonna, the millage rate, we're at 15.2 now, it could drop down to 14.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
But I mean, I'm just saying, but putting it out, being clear, raising values does not mean that you're raising the taxes.
No, I know that. But is this going, and signing this consent order, is it gonna stop that too? I mean, is it gonna be able to handle that part in a timely manner where if you raise the valuation, we're gonna roll the tax back and still be the millage rate and all that's gotta come along too, be rolled back.
Yeah,
if they rate.
And it will, because that's what they're doing, they're revaluing properties. When you do your schedule, the revaluing the existing properties, that affects your rollback rate.
Will it set
So
the,
the more that the appraisals go up as far as a reassessed value, your millage rate will drop.
okay, that's what I was wanting to get at, was it gonna roll it back?
Yeah,
And
it'll roll it back, and it's also contingent on the properties that go up, what their exemptions are, because some properties, you can raise it up to $2 million from $100,000, but their exemptions can go exactly the same amount. It just depends, everything's is dependent on the property themselves.
And this will all happen in this consent order. I mean, once well, with the contract that they have,
And that contract.
they should handle all that.
So it's not gonna be like it's gonna be a massive raise the first year or second year. It's gonna be a 3-year contract, to have it done by. So it's not like it's gonna be like this year, everything's just gonna go through the roof, and and it comes out, and then the next couple of years it's gonna be minor. You know, it's just gonna be a progressive thing for each year.
Oh, yeah.
So, but that's what you're looking at, is you're gonna not have a tax increase, but you'll see the millage rate drop with it.
Okay. Billy, is this thing, everything they ask for that they need, you're gonna be able to supply
We really
it in the
don't have-
office, like computers, transportation, everything they want? We gonna have it ready for
This is
them?
one thing that you've not seen yet, and I think that Mr. Lucas kinda hit on it more when I talked to him, was, and I stated in that first meeting that, you know, we're using outdated ways to handle our field work and all this stuff, which takes a lot of time. So we do have a quote, from the company that our vendors are gonna use. They use the thing that's called data cloud. Basically, they have iPads in the field. They do the work, they complete it, bam, as soon as they're done with that parcel, it's finished. They don't go take a wad of paper out, make a bunch of notes, go back to the office, sit down and take double the time to put it in than it did when they were gonna do it in the field. So for us to help them, and that's in that contract about the work that we do and saving the money that we're gonna save, we still have to have 4 licenses. So we're gonna have 4 computers, iPad Pros, that we're gonna get, that we're gonna be working with. And there's, of course, we have to buy those, and we have to pay a licensing fee for those 4 computers, and we pay a maintenance fee. And this is hopefully something, once we get these, our intention is to always submit in the budget the licensing fees and the service fees for those machines and continue to use those type of equipment into the future, where we're better off. When we go out there with that particular machine, we're not gonna go out here dragging a camera, doing this, and all this paper. We're gonna go out there, take that machine, pop pictures of everything we need to take pictures of, resketch the property while we're standing there, delete anything we do, and then we're done. When we walk off of that piece of property, it's over with. So those fees, and we're looking, and this is just a rough estimate, again, email problems like the contract and not having that sentence in the contract was due to us having some email issues last week, not being able to communicate with people we need to communicate with. But it looks like it's gonna be between $20,000 and $30,000, which honestly, by looking at just one type of property, the commercial property, that's gonna double that amount of money we're gonna bring in. So those fees are gonna be absorbed from the work that we do in the field. But those fees, we will have to do that. That is an agreement we have to have. We're gonna work with them. We have to have compatible equipment for them to quality control all the work that's going on. So, I mean, that'll be.
So that's what I was asking. We're gonna have to buy some additional equipment and all this stuff.
Yeah.
We should have been involved in the past.
We should have done this a long time ago. There's a lot of small counties that use this same thing.
Right.
It gives the ability, even after the fact, say I've taken people that I have appraisers that were just getting certified, but they're certified enough to put them out and have their qualifications. At that point, when they're doing work, that monitor set up in the office, she, me, whoever it is, can be watching those people while they're working. If they're making good moves, we can correct their stuff. We can stop the fire, we put it out before it ever gets going. So, they're very good tools. I mean, we should have been asking for this, and we've had, matter of fact, Bacon County, I think, is starting with them. So, I mean, there's a lot of counties that are starting to use it, and it's just smart work. So work hard, work smart, and it pays for itself.
Will the tax commission be able to access that software?
No, sir.
They won't.
So this is an appraisal software. This don't have anything to do with taxes and collection.
Yeah, that won't have anything to do with me. That's just them doing their appraisals. Now, once they get everything uploaded, what basically.
You still be able to
what they're
pull
doing in the field is what, instead of doing in the field and they come back in office. So that cuts down their time. But what I'm going to get will be the files afterwards. So I'll have those values and all the new values, but I'm not going to have I have no need to have that system. There's no need for me, because I'm not appraising.
But you still going to have the information to explain to the taxpayer.
Yeah, I'll have all that, that'll come over with the files.
It'll still come over winged out?
When I do the digest and stuff, I still have the winged out. That's a non-issue. But I don't need access to their files as they're going through and doing it, have that type of.
Well, let me ask y'all something. How did this thing get in such a mess? I mean, did it so far out like that? Is it because something that's been done in the offices that wasn't, I mean, I ain't blaming nobody, but is there something that was going on that shouldn't have been done that way or something?
It's kinda like
Or somebody maybe,
until you get to this point where you need some money, you just don't typically have the county's commission. I'm not throwing any stones.
no.
County manager, anybody that's trying to budget for stuff, typically you got to bring them proof that you need this for them to give you the money. So at the end of the day, we've been able to patch it till we got to this point. Now we're at the point where you gotta put up. I mean, you got to correct it. So, if I went to him every year and told him I needed these computers, I'm telling you, and they brought it before y'all, and they told me I needed $30,000 worth of stuff for me to go out here and do my job. You're probably gonna say you didn't get it done. We're not giving you 30, we're not budgeting that. You know, typically the budgets, what happens with them is we submit them and they get cut. So, I mean, it don't matter if we're submitting for wages, equipment, they get cut. So, I mean, it's hard to correct things, like I said, you know, and we've talked a little bit about personal property. We talked about wages. You can't go hire a licensed accountant this out of college and put him to work for $12 or $13 an hour. He ain't gonna do it. It's not gonna happen. So, you know, all these are things, having qualified people, having the equipment. So we're gonna get the stuff done in this contract, and like I said, this need of equipment will help us to better do our jobs. But what you're asking is true. It takes money to correct anything you got, and this is basically legwork and a lot of computer programming. And we don't have the expertise to do the computer programming within this system. These people that we're trying to contract with, they set the system up. So there's this, to them it's gonna be old school, there's nothing to it, they do it all the time, but we don't have it. But that's just where it is. But it has been an accumulation of different things over the last 25 years.
Okay, one more question I'd like to ask you. If we do all of this, is it gonna stop the lowering or raising of the evaluations in the offices where maybe it has to go before the Board of Equalization before it's ever changed? You know, if it's just some of it low and some of it high, what I'm wanting to know is if it's balanced this time, can we stop it from being unbalanced by using the board or something to Laurie, I might not be saying it right, but you know what I'm saying, is what we want to do is, I want to know if we do this, we'll just stop that. Because I've been hearing this a long time. In 12, I think we come up with this mess. I was on the other side. But today, I want it to be where if we're going to do this, and I'm for it, but I want to know if I'm solving the problem. If I go buy a $200,000 or $300,000 machine to go on my project, I want to make sure that thing, we were going to need that thing. And I did that a lot. And I had to face that. But that was the last thing I did before I signed that contract, was I made damn sure I needed it.
Well, let me respond. What Billy was trying to tell you previously, and something that you relate to, is just like a shelf life. Everything they've used has exceeded the shelf life. The programs they've had has exceeded, they've exceeded, so they gotta have newer technology, they gotta have newer equipment, there's a bunch of different things, and that's the reason why we're at where we're at. So will that take care of it? Yes. Will it continue? That will be up to the assessors as far as each year, how they update stuff, the period of times, but that's something that actually will give them a better handle on once they get there.
Okay.
Be able to maintain that.
But see, Roger, what I'm saying, and I appreciate what you said, because what I want to do is I want to bring it, and I don't want one here, he can lower old Joe's because he knows him real good, you know. I think that's probably happened over the years, not saying Billy done it, not saying, but some of this problem it arrived from some reason. Am I right, Commissioner?
It come from somewhere.
It come from somewhere, it got messed up.
Well, a lot of it has to do with the schedules, and that's, the schedules of the land, the schedule stuff that has to be updated. But you gotta have, you gotta have the right technology, you gotta have.
Yeah.
I think,
I'm for that,
So that's what they're working on doing.
okay,
So,
now,
The thing is, I mean, there's just a lot of stuff that we have to do to maintain it. Is it worth it? Well, I think it's worth right now, not paying these fines and losing all this money, for sure.
Yeah.
Because that would be more detrimental to this county.
you see, that's what I'm saying, is I wanna make sure that no one person can't go in there and change nothing. It has to go before the Board of Equalization.
No, I'm not speaking for them, but their appraisers, I mean, they have to appraise the property as they see it. So they'll have, say, Billy's on one property, he's appraising Steve's property, he's appraising the property the way it is. Lane's gonna be on somebody else's property. That's what they do, is, when I was on the Board of Assessors, I never recall anybody getting a break just because of who they was, as far as what we was concerned as assessors and all like that. Now, did that happen? I think it happened before in the past with somebody who's no longer, employed with Ware County. I'll say that, but, I'm not speaking for them, what they're gonna do in the future, but it's gonna give them an opportunity to be able to keep ahead of the curve.
Well, you say it didn't happen. I mean, no, you didn't say it didn't. But you said that you didn't know it happened now. But it has happened because this is where we at.
There was a
I think, can I say something?
Yeah, I'm just saying that there was an issue and it had nothing to do with anybody's in office now. Let me put it that way, and that was years ago, and that person is no longer employed by Ware County. Since then, since I was on the assessors and as a tax commissioner, everything they've been doing has been above board, been right. I can tell you that.
Can I say something, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
I can tell you that.
Okay.
With the reading that I've done, conversations with Mr. Billy that I've had, it's my understanding we dropped the ball as a county because we didn't get the updated equipment that the assessors needed years ago. We were putting Band-Aids on the wound. We were upgrading other areas of the county. And of course, this was before a lot of us got here, but we were upgrading different parts of the county, but we wasn't upgrading to be able to get the correct. And he knew, just like most of us should have known, if I'd have been here at the time, I'd have probably known, y'all known. If you don't approve equipment in certain areas, just like when we done with the fire, like we just done with the police, all the stuff we're getting for them, it's improving, it's helping them do their job better. That's in every caveat of any position you've got in the county running government. We've got to upgrade their equipment and get them up to par where they're not double and triple working. Because I understand exactly what he's saying. Right now, they're going out there and they're writing down on a little scratch pad stuff, and then they got to come right back to the office and spend the whole next day in front of a computer. Everything they got on that scratch pad, they put in the computer. Well, the modernized stuff, they're going to have iPads with them. They're going to walk out there and they're going to stand on that piece of property. They're going to take pictures. They're going to run the scale on that property, and they're going to hit submit. It's in that system. They don't have to come back and put it in the system. And that's the software issue, software part of it. You're talking about 40,000.
No, I'm talking about changing it.
Oh,
How
no,
does
sir,
it
I'm
get-
not
These
so worried.
evaluations, once if this is a fair deal, I'm for it 100%. Okay. If it can stay that way. And I don't know if you know what I'm talking about. I want it to happen, but I want it to be where it can stay there. I don't want it to be rocky again, like this here, because this is why we're here. Because it's got it out of whack, somewhere along the way. And I ain't saying Billy done it, and I ain't saying the equipment done it. It's probably the way a lot of times you have a brand new piece of equipment, and a lot of people don't know how to run it. What we need, we got to balance this thing out. and if this will solve it, and like I say, I'm for it. But I want it to be fair across the board, all the way.
I believe what they're wanting to do will probably make it more fair than anything we've got over there now.
Okay?
You talking about complete strangers coming into a county, looking at a piece of
Yeah,
property,
well,
that don't know who lives there.
I know
mean,
what's
that-
gonna
that's
happen.
as
There's
fair
gonna be
as
a
it can
bunch of
be.
them gonna run up there and say, oh, you evaluated my house, well, you're gonna have to fight that. I know that's coming.
We're prepared to do that, we do that every year.
When they assess it, you're gonna have to have that happen.
That's it, I mean, there's too many cliches, you take a picture of an old dump, and they say that's what the assessor sees, and they got a high value put on it. You got the castle over there, and they got any value on it, but.
Probably 90% of the time, that person wouldn't sell that property for what it's assessed
Exactly.
at.
The market is ridiculous.
Well, that's what I say.
It's ridiculous right now, and I can tell you this too, and I'm pretty sure that if they haven't seen it, there's been houses sold over there off of Blackwell, which if you looked at, they had values of $16,000 on, and I know for a fact, it could have been something sold for $69,000 and $80,000.
That's what I'm talking about.
Because people are coming in, that's the way the market is. And that's also part of the issue that they have to catch up to now because of this market. So, I mean, it's being fair to everybody, that's their job, being fair and equal. That's the same thing, we make sure that's the way we treat it. So, you know, as you say, the stuff going up and down, if your property is valued at $200,000, but it's really worth $400,000, that's where it should be at. If mine's valued at $300,000 and it's at $500,000, that's where it should be at.
That's right, that's what I want.
Because in the end of it, I don't like paying taxes. I don't like writing that check to me, but I'm gonna make sure I'm gonna pay my taxes and not somebody else's.
Your
Yeah.
fair portion.
My fair portion of what I've got, and that's what they have to do, and that's what they've been working with, but they need this stuff now to catch back up.
I'm gonna touch on that real quick, in that consent order, it mentions the real property and personal property that we're coming back, and we'll come back to y'all with some more numbers for the personal property. Basically, what the revenue department says and the way things are when you're talking about being treated equally, that's why when we went to them and mentioned trying to get the personal property withdrawn from that consent order, you know what that is? That's a bias. Because those people are not gonna pay their fair share if theirs is not updated. So you are saying, or us, that we're not gonna touch the personal property, you're just exempting them from what they owe, what they're due to pay you on an honor system. And I don't care what happens if you put a cookie jar, and I used to work in the cookie business, and Lane will vouch for that, you put it in there with the honor deal, guess what? Somebody's gonna go by and get crackers, and they're not gonna pay for it.
Oh, yeah.
So that's the way it works. So you can't just single out a real property owner here. You have to take care of everybody. Everybody has to be fairly assessed. That's the biggest statement in the statute with Georgia, in the law, is uniform. We get challenged more on uniformity than we do anything else in court. So when we start talking about this other, keep that in mind, because everyone is supposed to pay their fair share.
That's right.
So,
Yeah.
And all the ones that you always hear, well, I wish somebody would pay me what they got to pay that. I was on the board of sessions, we had somebody come in and say, I wish you'd pay my salary right back, I'll go to the bank, and they changed their mind. You know, no, they're not, it's not that people don't, let me say it, Jim, nobody likes change.
No.
Human nature against change. So you're used to seeing one thing, they're used to paying one thing, but, times have changed, values have changed. Look at gas, it's changing every day. Everything's changing, and that's what we have to adapt to. You know, it is what it is right now. People, you come in and you have a house for sale, $185,000, it's gonna sell for $250,000 because people's coming in and won't pay cash, no close, 30 days done deal, and they're paying over. That's just the way the market's been, it's since,
It's ridiculous.
20 years, late 1920s,
Yeah.
2020 is when it started going up, you'll see.
That suits me on this. I mean, I'm for it. But I don't want it to get back in the mess it's in. That's all I'm looking at. Has this been searched out real good through you, Billy? You know what to do with it. we need to work on it. We don't need it to happen anymore. That's mainly what I'm wanting out of the thing. We're gonna go along with it, whatever, but we want it to be where they can't nobody change it unless it goes before the equalization board or something, any parcel. It can't be changed by itself.
All they do is, they just hear appeals, they don't have anything that set any values. All that's on us, the Board of Equalization is only when the county or the taxpayer can't reach an agreement on their property value. If they look at it, we give them the statistical data, they look at it, determine whether, well, you know, he's provided me with 20 sales right here, and it shows that houses are selling for $100 square foot. That's the information, that's what we do. We're transparent. We have to give those taxpayers all that information. So the Board of Equalization only hears disagreements when you can't resolve and come to an agreement on the value. That's all they do. They don't have anything to do with setting values.
Yeah.
Okay, so.
Billy,
Anybody else?
is this what was the contract with GMAS? Is that the same thing that was presented or something similar to it in 2012? When it all went south?
No.
It's not? Okay,
No.
okay.
We actually, the state had been in a moratorium for 3 years. So we updated the values, we built commercial schedules, Joyce and I did. And we did land schedules, Lane and myself landed land, we built the land schedules. And so nobody had seen any change in 3 years, which there's not been any change in land values since 1988. So, you know, that was an in-house we did, and the values went up considerably, but the values have been locked in by the state for 3 years because of the housing market crash. So we never had a contract with a vendor, we never have approached, except one time or twice. GMAS, the same company we're talking about, did a large tract reevaluation from our 2012 stuff in 2016. And I don't remember what we paid, $30,000 roughly, something like that. And so they're familiar with the land schedules. They actually built the last land schedules that we have, so they'll just be updating their own information. But typically, we've done everything in-house. And personal property in 2012, we did have a contract for that, but that's been it.
And the contract with GMAS is in lieu of hiring the additional two, because it says once it's signed, the consent order signed, we are to hire someone. Is that correct?
They suggest, like the real property, it says either contract out with a vendor
Okay.
or hire an extra real property appraiser, or the personal property, hire another one additional to the staff that we already don't have filled, or enter into a contract.
Okay.
So that's the way that reads. So if we're doing the contract with them on both terms, the personal and the real, then we won't have to hire those additional non-budgeted 2 positions that they mentioned in the consent order.
So how many positions have you got right now that's not
Open.
filled?
2 right now. We've had up to 4. We've got one guy been about 3 weeks with us, and we've got a couple more that are 2-3 months. So we were down 4 or 5 at one time, and we basically ran down -2 probably for the last 5-6 years, I can say that.
It's gonna take a couple of years before they really be beneficial for the county.
Correct. Right now, you can hire them, and you're trying to teach them the law and the rules. Basically, they're gonna be a target holder for you, and you're just trying to show them all the data and information they're gonna have to go through. But they've all got to go, and it's typically before you turn somebody loose, you're gonna have between 2 and 3 years in them before they're educationally ready to do what they need to do out there. So,
If you were fully staffed with certified appraisers, could you meet the terms, the requirements of the consent order with your department as it stands if you were fully staffed?
no. Just
Right.
cannot see 21,000 pieces of property and do everything else that we do with fields, DOEs, returns, assessment notices, building permits. No, I mean, that's recommended, but it's, it's impossible to do that.
Right.
So right now, Madam Attorney, you say that we basically, first thing we vote on is the consent order.
Yes, sir.
Otherwise, we acknowledging all the particulars in the consent order.
That's what we're doing. I believe the vote should be to approve the terms of the consent order and then give the chairman the authority to sign the version that the Department of Revenue will send down.
Okay, so all we vote on today is just a consent order, and then for the
And
chairman.
the contract.
That's right.
But the contract is not finalized yet.
No, the consent order is our first item on our agenda, so we do need to vote on that. But then also, we are ready to vote on the contract with GMAS with that one revision, if you'll just give me the authority to add that introductory language. I'm sure that will not be a problem for them.
Right, and then it'll be the either or on the personal property that will come back. With the consent order, yeah, like she said, doing it, approving the contract, like I said, we have only until the 15th of this month to get on board with them for the real property to start, but we're gonna be pushed 2 more years back, we've got so much work. So, that's here today, we know, like I said, the consent order is telling us, we're gonna have to do all those things it says, we just have to get a few numbers on the personal, come to y'all and say, here it is, guys, how do you wanna handle it? This part of it, I mean, we've got to get these people working. The personal gave us a little bit of time, and if we can get some quotes, because like I said, you want to either talk about filling another position, having somebody trained, kind of the same way, you're not gonna have you can't, like I said, hire somebody off the street, and when you start doing personal property, they basically are doing accounting. So you gotta have a lot of math skills and know what you're looking for, looking at trials and balances and all this stuff, so, that's why we wanna come back to you with personal issue and show you raw numbers, which we think would be the best.
So when do we need to make a decision on personal?
We hope that we'll have some stuff by the time y'all meet again at your next regularly scheduled session. We hope we'll have that information. We'll probably have it the next day or two, but we don't want to get y'all to have to call another call to show this, information to you. But we should be able to have it before the next time y'all have your regular scheduled work session.
So the total cost of this project will be what?
$725. And then any legal fees that we may incur after that 25-day allotment.
725.
And the money's gonna come from where, Scott?
ARPA,
Y'all got
We
that
can use it,
verified?
yeah.
That for sure we can use
Yes,
that
sir.
money?
I'd like to mention one last thing, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, Mr. Billy. That fee you were talking about, Mr. Manager, the fee that we're gonna have put in the budget, hopefully for the software we gotta pay for, is that every year, every 3 years, whenever it is?
It'll be a fee every year.
Okay.
The license on it.
Now, just to make it clear, just like modernization, like what we're doing now, we should have done this 20 years ago, okay? Well, we're here now, we're gonna do it now, hopefully. All right, if when iPad's there, the new iPads, when they come out with a newer version, that fee that we're incurring every year that we're paying this company for the license and the products, they'll also update the equipment for that price, is that correct?
No, they don't, you can buy equipment, like right now, they would sell us the equipment.
It's the
iPads.
software, it's the
The
software.
software and the programming they're gonna have, that's what we're gonna be paying them for. The iPads, we're actually gonna buy them through Verizon, is what the plan is. We've got quotes on refurbished equipment, 60-day warranty. Where you got a year warranty on a piece of new equipment. If we use these things for, like I said, they're gonna last 3 or 4, 5 years. They'll replace them under this warranty, as long as we run over them in the car or something, they have problems, they're gonna replace them. Verizon will replace them, and they're the only thing, the expense they'll have through Verizon, will be just like any county employee's got on a cell phone, $17 a piece.
Okay.
Is what it'll be, but we would have to buy, say, those iPads get outdated, work with that system in 5 years or 3 years or whatever. We'd be responsible for buying our own equipment.
So it's the
not-
licensing agreement that we pay for. Okay.
part of the consent order is a requirement that whatever the budget request is to the Board of Commissioners, a copy of that request for the whole budget is to be sent to the Department of Revenue each and every year. Or if there's an amendment, that has to be sent to.
So even after we get this today, we're still gonna be under Department of Revenue scope for the next 3 to 6 years, if not longer.
Yeah.
You'll always be
clear
under,
this
because
consent
we'll
order.
do that review on you every 3 years, so, but this should have us, with this non-compliance, we should be out of non-compliance, we should have good numbers, and we should be able to maintain and modify the numbers once this is done, until hopefully an unforeseen end comes, or, you know, the county will have it. Certainly doing this is gonna put the county in a whole lot better position than what it has been.
After all this is said and done, will you still maintain your 3-year cycle on reevaluation?
Yes, sir.
That doesn't change.
We probably will try to get to a point when you're saying reevaluation, not with them, not a contracted reevaluation. And we have been doing evaluations and adjustments for the last 3, 4, 5 years. You've been getting different values. You get a different value. You're not getting the same value unless there's been a BOE hearing or some kind of agreement, some way, shape, or form that was done through a legal matter for them to continue to have the same valuation unless it was on land that we've not changed land schedules on.
Right.
So, yes, we will, their recommendation is you do it every 3 years, but the way the market is, we will be adjusting values unless something unforeseen happens, continually adjusting values on and on and on and on. I mean, we just don't, we're not gonna get these values and say, oh, we good. We're gonna sit down for the next 10 years and ride a ship out of town.
Right, that's my point.
Yes, sir.
Anybody else?
One thing, Mr. Chairman, is that on the contract, this last contract, versus the one we got, when you sent this information out, had about the 25 days or the 20 days. Is that in this new one? This contract that was up here?
So I believe the contract that was sent to you was inadvertently sent, that was Tiff's version of the contract. So the one that you have in front of you now incorporates Ware
Whether the book
County's
is not
terms.
good,
20 days.
hand is good.
25 days in it.
That's correct.
Yeah.
So it's 25 days in this new one here?
That's correct.
And where is it? I mean, I've looked.
Second page, middle of second page.
It's in that grayed out area.
Okay, I see it now, phased out, okay. Okay. That's all, Mr. Chairman.
And Billy, how much did you say that it's gonna cost us altogether for all the upgrade on the computer screen, all that stuff?
We think right now between 20 and 30. We've
Between
still
20 and
waiting on these
30,000.
people to give us a full understanding and explanation about this. I mean, they gave us a set of numbers, but we wanted to have some conversation with them. Like I said, it's a standard quote based on how many units we were gonna use, and this, that, and another. So we're still, but we think between 20 and 30 initially, and then it'll just be the licensing fees and what we pay Verizon every month for the service, the internet service that'll be on.
And we got to hire 4 new people.
We're too short right now.
Too short.
We're gonna fill our 2 positions. They're already budgeted positions.
Right.
We're just trying to fill, but entering into the contract with them, if we do personal and real, we'll hire no additional staff. If the board, once we bring in information, says, no, we want y'all to try to do this in-house, then we hire an additional person for that personal property to help do that.
Okay.
So that's kind of where we are with that, but we're not looking, if we get this work contracted out, when we can get ourselves a full staff, we'll be maintaining that, and not employing additional people.
Okay. Anything else, anybody? I hear a motion.
A motion, we accept it as presented by Mr. Billy and Mr. County Commissioners. I think it's a good thing. I think it's something we need to get done, or we're gonna suffer severe consequences, I believe, if we don't.
What was the motion for?
To approve it as is, approve it.
What?
Would it be
For the
just an
record,
A?
I mean, Scott needs to know what we're voting
The
on.
consent order?
The consent order
Consent order.
Consent order.
for the Department of Revenue, Georgia Department of Revenue.
And that motion includes the additional language that the attorneys have requested.
That'll be in the
in
second
the-
item.
That's in the
That's the
second.
second item.
Good.
Okay.
Good deal.
This is just the consent order. Okay.
I'll
And he-
second it.
For the Georgia Department of
second.
Revenue.
I'll second it.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Anybody got any discussion on it?
And if this passes, then the chairman is automatically instructed to sign it.
When we get the hard copy, is that what you said? Yep.
Anything else before we vote? All right, let's vote on it. Mr. Burris?
Aye.
Mr. Pope?
Aye.
Mr. Lucas?
Aye.
Mr. Barner?
Aye.
Chair votes no. Okay. The property appraiser contract for services. Now I hear a motion on that one.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion, we accept the property appraisal contract for services by GMAS and the upgraded equipment, all the word verbiage and the change that our lawyer's gonna put in it, that introduction paragraph, accept it as is with that addition.
Have a second.
Second.
Any discussion? Is any correction, anything anybody else want to put in it? What are y'all satisfied with it?
I'm satisfied.
Let's vote. Mr. Burris?
Aye.
Mr. Pope?
Aye.
Mr. Lucas?
Aye.
Mr. Barner?
Aye.
Chair vote no. I hear a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Meeting adjourned.